Alright, everybody.
That's my review for PlayStation.
So I see Geek Society. Jon here with Dom. And we just got done playing a couple of PlayStation VR games. I got it last night at the midnight release, and I played for like 4 hours straight and figuring things out. Was up to like 5 o'clock in the morning. Woke up today with just like a few hours sleep, and then we just did this. So I want to talk about also like how I feel doing that. But I want to first start with Dom because he just started playing today. So we're just gonna talk for a little bit.
I feel sick.
You do?
I feel sick. You know that scene in Austin Powers?
Which I don't know. It's been a while.
When Dr. Evil's like spinning in the chair a million times. Feeling a little scared now.
Yeah, what do you mean?
The first one, the shark one, I think that was less disorienting because it's just looking around and sitting.
Right. That's why I suggested doing that first.
Yeah. The Job Simulator one, I feel really sick, and I only played it for like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I think it's because it's like more like moving and like your hands and your motion aren't exactly what you're doing and what you're seeing. Like
it's
correlating.
Not like 1-to-1.
Yeah. I think that's why it's like off. Because I would like do something and the arm would be like this, or I'd move my head and it would be like some other thing.
Yeah, one thing you didn't get to try yet is like what I was talking about of actually moving with the right joystick like you would in usual first-person game.
Yeah.
Because I was playing the game Here They Lie, which is this really interesting horror game. And I was telling Dom before that there's like two modes. The first mode is called VR mode, and this is similar to like what I've noticed a lot of VR games are doing that still use the controller to move around. Is you either have it where like you press the right joystick and it snaps into a direction, or you kind of like have like a ghostly avatar that shows you like where you want your avatar to go. Kind of like what we saw in Batman actually.
You like click there.
Yeah, you just click
there.
to something and it just like puts you there. Because I think like the biggest thing for motion sickness is the actual turning motion. But the other option that was in Here They Lie is to just have like regular turning. But what was good is that in the options menu you could adjust the sensitivity. And so I found kind of more of my sweet spot. But also what they did is something interesting that I haven't seen anyone else do is even though you're turning like you normally would in a first-person game, it blackens your peripheral vision. So like you're only seeing like a smaller point forward. And apparently that diminishes the feeling of motion sickness as well if you're just
like seeing so like wide to the side.
Right, so it's just like blinders on your peripheral vision while you're turning. So you're just looking straight ahead. But I had to stop playing Here They Lie at some point. Again, like it was 5 o'clock in the morning and I had been playing for 4 hours. So that might have contributed to me feeling ill. But I was starting to feel like really motion sickness and like my stomach was like rising into my chest. So one of the things that people have been talking about, and I mentioned this to you before too, is like it kind of tricking your brain into feeling things. Did you feel that at all? Like what? Like
when I was going down in the shark thing,
yeah.
I felt that for like a second. Like I was like a roller coaster feeling.
What is that like? Like how would you describe that? Like, isn't it weird? Like
yeah, it's like your brain doesn't know where you are.
Huh.
It's not even like your body feels like it's off. It's like your brain feels like it's off.
Huh.
Like my body felt like I was still here, but my brain was like my head was like flying away.
That's interesting.
Like it was just like my head. Like I felt it in my head. My body, like I didn't feel sick in my stomach or anything. It's just my head was like
floaty.
Like yeah, like feeling really weird.
Do you think it has something to do with in that specific game? Because I haven't tried that myself yet. But do you think if you had an actual avatar of a body, do you think that would have changed that at all? Do you think you would have felt more like you were actually there?
I feel like if there was like anything, like there was like that controller, like that I felt like I was actually there. Like in the other one, it just felt like I was like watching.
So
like, I wasn't really affected by anything that was happening. Like anything I did didn't matter.
Interesting.
Like I wasn't really immersed into that experience.
So maybe like it really is important because like for example when I was playing Batman I had a body or I had a belt.
Like you moving mattered. Like me moving side to side didn't really matter. Me like doing something with my hands didn't matter. It's just like looking around and like lighting stuff up, and that didn't even really matter either. I still like went down. The shark came and then I just went up.
Did you feel any differently when it comes to that when you were playing Job Simulator?
Job Simulator, I was like. Besides, like, the hand, like, freaking out, like, it was pretty... I felt like I was actually in there. Like, I took it off and I was like, whoa, I'm actually in your house.
Yeah,
like, literally, when I finished, I thought that I could put the controllers down on the desk.
Really?
Like,
I thought you were joking about that.
I stopped myself. I had to stop myself because I was going to just drop... I literally thought I could just place it.
That's amazing, though, right?
I was so used to the counter being there that I thought I could just place it on the counter.
That's incredible, because I thought you were just joking.
No, I turned it into a joke.
Because you're like, look, I was just about to put it on the counter.
Yeah, I did it, and then I did it again to, like, make you aware of what I almost did.
Wow.
But the first time I was like this, and I was like, oh shit, that's not a table.
That's interesting. Because, yeah, like, so some things I want to talk about when it came to that is, first of all,
that's like how you felt when you were looking over the edge.
Yeah.
Batman.
So, like, yeah, when I was doing Batman, like, I felt like... I knew I was holding the controller, the move controller, even though that wasn't coming up in the screen.
Yeah.
But I felt like when I was leaning over the edge that I could drop the controller.
Yeah.
But obviously, like, that ledge wasn't really there. Also, when... It was interesting with me because, like, when I was in the Batman game and the elevator's going down... I actually did feel it in my body. I felt like I was in an actual elevator. Dude, it was so weird. And then, like, because I know it wasn't really happening. And then when it started to slow down and stop, I felt like it would when I was in the elevator and it would stop. And some really weird stuff was happening last night when I was playing.
For probably like 12 plus hours.
When I was playing Here They Lie. That horror game I mentioned before.
Were you sitting or standing?
I was standing. And it's like, I wasn't using, I don't think you can use the motion controllers with that anyway, but I had the DualShock. Which by the way, a little bit of a side note, I thought it would be strange moving with the DualShock, but actually I felt fine doing that. Maybe it's because I'm such a gamer, like, I'm used to that being...
Yeah,
something
like you
that would move me.
Exit yourself, and that becomes like.
Yeah, but so.
Like if you're controlling like some robot mech or something.
Kinda,
like you don't really like. Connect the controller to a controller. You connect it to what it's doing.
Right.
Like your brain goes through the controller into the actions.
Yeah. But yeah, there was a point where I mentioned this stuff to you before, but when I was playing Here They Lie. There's a part where, like, fire starts. And I started to walk towards the fire, and I leaned into it, and I could swear I felt heat. And I'm like, I know that's not real, but my brain made me feel like it was heat. And then there was another point in that game where you have, like, this woman in front of you, and she's, like, a romantic interest, and she was really close to me, and I felt as if, like, something being, like, in my presence, close to me.
Well, you said that same thing with, like, Batman's parents.
That was really intense for me because, I mean, obviously everyone knows the beginning stories of Batman is, like, his parents are killed in the alley. And to witness that happening, like, to feel, like, a three-dimensional presence of that was very violent. And I also mentioned to you, like... we didn't do it today, but the kitchen teaser, Resident Evil kitchen teaser on the demo disc, that was really intense where you're like tied down in a chair and a woman is essentially...
So is that just like looking around that one? So you
can't but you can move your hands too because the guy like tries to cut you free. But there's a part where she's sticking a knife like right in front of your eye. And it was so intense. Like, I was talking to Victor beforehand, and I literally couldn't talk. Like, I knew it wasn't real, but it felt scary, like terrifying.
Yeah.
And so it leads me to be thinking about something very interesting to me where I feel like there needs to be more subtlety. Or people making stuff for VR are going to have to. Like, it reminds me...
I feel like we've had like a different experience. Like, I know I probably had a different experience because the 2 games that I played, I was like talking to you throughout the whole thing.
Right.
So I wasn't as completely like lost in it. Especially like I was starting to get lost in Job Simulator. Like you saw, I was doing the job.
Yeah, you
I was like,
stop.
I work here. But like you were there and you were like, oh, what are you doing? This, that. Oh, get the hot dogs. So I was like, that was like an outside.
Well, one thing that was really
you know?
interesting to me and where I thought you were actually really immersed is you leaned down automatically to open the freezer.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't something like you weren't like, can I do this? You just did it and it worked.
I know, that was really weird.
Yeah.
I didn't think that was going to work. I was like, let me try. And it worked. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh shit.
But what I was going to say is, especially when it comes...
Does that work in Batman? I don't think leaning down worked in Batman, did it?
I didn't even try it. I don't know.
You probably just like fall inside your bat belt.
Maybe.
Because there's like a body reference in that game.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
So that wasn't really. You're probably just like a floating.
Maybe
thing.
you're right. That'd probably be different. But I was gonna say.
I think that's why they had where your head is supposed to be. You know the block.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So if you probably moved out of that, probably be like, because it was like even like player interacting with objects, like it was more like limited.
Right. If you went out of that, it would go out of player range maybe. But what I was gonna say is, it reminds me of like the transition of when movies were still kind of new, and so people were still acting as if they were acting in a play. And so for people that might not know, when you're acting in a play, you're taught to like act to the back of the room. So that's why your movements are over exaggerated, your voice is louder, etc., in order to portray emotion to an audience that might be further away.
Not many of them were on location either. There's a lot of set pieces that were filmed from like one side.
Right. And so like if you look at earlier films, it would be what we would think is overacting. But then eventually they realized the close-up. And so you could give a lot of emotion just by facial expressions, which is something that you couldn't do before movies.
Yeah.
And so I think it's kind of similar here where in order to portray emotion up until now, or like in order to scare you, for example, there needs to be like intense, gory stuff going on. But in VR, that might be a little bit too much. Where just feeling like I was sitting in a room tied up, that's scary enough. And so I think that people need to play a little bit more with those subtleties.
Imagine if there was somebody in the room with you that actually tied you up and went along what was happening in the game.
Oh, God.
And like released you as you got released or whatever.
Well, something that's interesting, I don't remember who it was. I should.
That would be super.
But there was a guy like a
then
year.
You take it off and you're actually in the room.
There was a guy a year or two ago that had like the Oculus, and he actually put on like I think it was Skyrim, and there was a part where you could go into like a bar and sit down and eat, and he put actual food in front of him in real life. So he was eating in the game and eating in real life. And he said, like, this is amazing. Like, it felt like it was real. He also tried where there was, like, a Half-Life 2 mod for VR. And he wanted to see what it would be like to fall asleep in City 17. And so, apparently, I haven't watched this myself, but I've heard people talk about it. Where he, like, found, like, an alleyway in the game and just, like, fell asleep in real life.
In the VR?
Yeah, and he woke up because one of, like, the bots that fly around, like, flashed on him. And he woke up and it was like he was there. So like I feel like it's gonna be interesting people trying experiments like that. I also like even for me personally, like I felt like ill after a while. Like I still feel like that too.
From yesterday?
Yeah.
Damn.
And so it does affect my body. playing it for a long time.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering,
also like
do you think we'll get used to that?
I feel like it's an additional thing for us to get used to because most of the things like we're standing up. So like you play a game for 8+ hours, you're sitting, you're not using any energy. But if you're standing,
yeah, I was thinking
like
that
you're
too,
already
we're
like,
actually moving around.
Yeah, because I like as soon as I took off that job simulator thing, I was like, I need a hamburger. Like I'm hungry.
That's interesting because yeah. But yeah, do you think that we'll get used to that dizziness and disorientation?
If you do, it'll probably just like destroy your like reality, your grasp on reality or something.
I don't know. But
I remember like the first time I ever had I felt like this was when I first started playing like first person shooters, and that was like Metroid Prime, and like playing that game, I probably destroyed half my brain cells because like I would play it all day every day, and it was like this new sensation of like moving around and like looking, and then I probably actually did destroy my brain because I had like consecutive nosebleeds while playing that game.
What?
Yeah.
Nosebleeds.
I had horrible headaches, and I wouldn't want to stop playing because I was so like immersed in it. I feel like it could be like, if you do get used to it, it's just because you're like frying some part of your brain.
I don't know about that. I mean, because like the brain. So that's the thing. Like I remember learning about experiments. I minored in psychology, and I took a bunch of psych classes in college. I don't remember the specifics, but I remember like learning like they would do a thing where somebody would wear a special kind of glasses or something that would make it look like everything was upside down. And so at first that was incredibly disorienting. But I think after it was like a week or so, people that were in this experimentation just became natural for them. And then
were they like never taking it off?
Right, they had it on all the time.
You see, that's the difference. Like,
but then what happened is that obviously when they took it off again, it took them a while to adjust. And so, that's the thing. Our brains are incredibly adaptable. But what I'm interested in is, will that transition period decrease? That's what I think is the issue. Because we'll get used to being in VR, and then we feel disoriented in reality. Or a little bit wobbly or motion sickness. But I wonder, the more you do it, if like your brain will be like, oh yeah, I know what's going on. I get this now.
I don't know.
That's
a good question.
Yeah.
We'll do another video after we played it, and we're like,
So
we're either going to be brain dead or able to deal with VR. That's the two options. We'll be able to function in a virtual reality.
Like Resident Evil 4.
I think this is the first step of the government like getting us ready for the Matrix.
The government getting us ready for
the government ready to plugging all our asses in to become batteries.
Cool.
It's the first step. Get people used to VR, then plug their asses in the Matrix. If we're not already in the Matrix.
It might be Elon Musk.
This is like the inception of Matrixes. In the Matrix. Matrix in the Matrix with virtual reality on top.
And then what if they make a Matrix VR game?
I'd be playing that. I'd be like, can I fly? You'll see me, like we were talking about this before, like you'll see me playing the game and all of a sudden be like then you come up from behind me and like unplug the VR controller.
Not like this. Not like this.
Just die.
So
I wonder what would happen if like if you're like in the room by yourself, like immersed into the game, and then someone just like shuts it off like that. It'd just be
I
like,
don't know. I was worried about that too. Like something else weird happened last night where I had these windows open, and all of a sudden I heard like these really loud noises, and I was looking for it in the game.
Damn.
And then I realized that it was a truck outside in real life. And I'm like, oh, that's weird.
Yeah.
That's weird. It's really weird. And like I'm worried about that too. Like sometimes I have I have some of my friends that have keys to my apartment. Sometimes they'll just come by.
Be like,
and like, am I gonna know what's going on?
Yeah, I was kind of messing with you when you were doing Batman.
Really?
I was like rotating around you.
I had no idea where you were.
You were like running everywhere, and I was like trying to dodge you. Like.
But also, what's gonna be really interesting is pets.
Pets.
Cause like in like the intro video when you're setting up the system, it tells you to take your pets out of the room. Because like you're just gonna fucking step on your dog or cat or something, or like your cat's not gonna know what the hell's going on. Dogs are gonna be worried. Like dogs worry when you're acting weird. They're gonna be like, "What are you grabbing for? What's happening?" So it's gonna be interesting too.
They need to make a VR power glove. That's what they need to.
Yeah, maybe at some point. So what would you recommend this so far? What do you think about that?
I don't know. Because you played more games than I did.
Yeah.
Is there any actual game where it's like for that experience it's worth all this money? Because I know for a VR experience in general it's great, but is there like a game that you would like keep going back to? Because like as an initial thing, like virtual reality is like great, but like once you've played everything, are you gonna want to go back to any of these?
I think I will. Well, first of all, like the two games that really stand out to me so far, even though they probably gave me the most motion sickness, but I liked them the most, is one called Loading Human Chapter 1. And it's like this story-driven sci-fi adventure game. And like so far I've only played the beginning where like I'm in like some dude's house. But it's really interesting and feeling like you just walk around this house and grab things and look at them and stuff like that.
That's what, like the controller?
Yeah, the Move controllers. The other one, again, is just Here They Lie, that horror game. I haven't gotten far into it, but it's incredible looking around, like walking around this hellish kind of black and white like environment that looks kind of out of focus, but it reminds me of like walking or what it would feel like walking around in Silent Hill. Like it's really interesting to me. And that's the thing, even if there's short experiences, I think I'll come back to it just to be in that world again, you know? Now, is it worth the price point? I think for someone like me, like it is. Because, like, even if it bombs, I'm such a huge gamer that I feel like in 20 years from now when someone's like, hey, remember when PlayStation tried to make a VR set? Be like, yeah, man, I got one of those. And I'll feel cool about that.
I got it right here.
But I just feel like no matter what, this is historic attempt at something new. And I haven't gotten a day one hardware thing since the Nintendo 64 when I was 12 years old. I always wait. But this, I just felt like, you know what? I have the spare cash. I'm just incredibly curious about it. Even if stuff doesn't work right yet, I want to see how this develops. And I want to see why it doesn't work.
I feel like they really have to focus on like the focus.
Movement.
Focus on the focus.
Yeah. Need to up resolution somehow. Wait, I wonder if it will be. They said that it might be better in some games for the PlayStation Pro. The resolution.
I feel like for some reason, I think it's because it was so like low def, but the job simulator looked much clearer than the actual.
Right, because it's more stylized.
Yeah.
It
felt like there was like a haze over everything.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you felt that in Batman.
No, it's always there. And also there's something called...
Maybe it's also weird because we have glasses. I don't know.
I think also because, like, because Victor said that he didn't experience that stuff as much.
Maybe there's some sort of, like,
think that it does
or
fit
something, you know?
better over his face without the glasses. Even though everyone's been saying that people that have tried out the Vive and the Oculus and this, they said this is actually the most comfortable for glasses because there's more of, like, kind of like a buffer and you can adjust it. But another thing like that, they need to like figure out is moving around. And what's really interesting to me when I've been thinking about it is it bothers me a little bit that maybe they are working on it, but we just don't know yet, that Nintendo hasn't announced anything yet. Because I realize Nintendo has always solved these kinds of problems. They were the ones that introduced the digital pad for the original NES. so people could figure out how to move from screen to screen better and cheaper. They were the one that reintroduced analog stick, figured out how to walk around in a 3D world using the camera, figured out how to do rumble right, figured out motion controls. Like, I feel like if anyone's going to solve how to move in this new virtual reality world, it might be Nintendo whenever they get in, because although, like, yeah, people knock them for making kiddie stuff and everything, they've always been the innovators in how to make a video game. And so I'm hoping that they're working on that, because I feel like if we're looking at the past, they're always the ones to figure out that problem first. But anyway, we're probably going to need to, like, stop taping soon.
Taping. We're in a world of
Taping
virtual reality.
conversation.
There's no tapes left.
But yeah, we're going to continue covering this. I'm going to start trying to review some of these games. And we'll see if, like, my nausea actually decreases. So keep you updated.
Next video, John's just going to be green.
Maybe.
Nauseous. Constant vomiting.
Constant. Just be vomiting all over the video.
As soon as all the effects that this thing causes to people happen, you're going to buy it and it's going to have, like, a huge list on the side of the box. It may cause this. For a fact. You see? Already. Premature
nauseation.
Premature nauseation.
NYC Geek Society. Like, share, subscribe. Tell your mom. Tell your dad. Tell your Matrix agent people. Peace out.
Nauseous peace out. Double nauseous peace out.